welcome to Scoot Talk Sports, episode 6, if you can believe it. We're on the 6th episode of Scoot Talk Sports. So a big thank you right off the top to everybody who's here in chat on twitch.tv/SCOOTR. I appreciate you guys being here so very much. If you guys want to take part in the show recording where you have an opportunity to ask questions, maybe partake a little bit, be sure to tune in on Twitch at 12 o'clock Central Standard Time on Monday and Fridays. I'm trying to do it twice a week, and then it drops on the podcast about a day later. So big thank you to everybody who's jumped in. I think we have a great show ahead of us. We have the enigma, the mystery, the Canadian soccer superfan, CPLWoodenSpoon, joining us today. We'll be talking a little bit about the Canadian women's team win this morning, which will be unbelievable vibes to talk about for sure. If you missed it, the Canadian women won the gold in the women's soccer event at the Tokyo Olympics, which was an incredible feeling this morning. We'll also be talking a bit about how he got into this character, this account, how he got involved in becoming such a super fan of Canadian soccer, basically. And then our second guest is going to be Jose Galan from Valour FC. He's a footballer who started in Atlético Madrid's academy setup and has gone throughout the world in his career. A pretty amazing adventure, if you ask me, and has landed here in Winnipeg with Valour the last couple of years. So it's an opportunity to pick his brain and see, you know, what he thinks about the city, what he thinks about his career, and what are some of the favorite memories that he's had throughout that adventure. Next up is CPLWoodenSpoon, our first guest on episode 6. For those who don't know WoodenSpoon is a Twitter account that started when the Canadian Premier League started. Can you give us a little bit about how that account started and what the intention was when you first started it?
Well, originally it was a group of supporters who were trying to take away the power from the International Supporters Council, the ISC, who runs the shield for MLS, and they do the spoon, just because we don't really like them as an organization. And then through that, it evolved just to sort of bridge the gap between what I thought people might have been missing from the Canadian soccer landscape. Mm-hmm. It seemed like there was a little bit of a lack of knowledge when it came to some of the lower leagues that were feeding into the professional leagues. And it would be nice to showcase like how people got to where they were.
And I think that's something that, you know, me and you have chatted a bit about before is just the breadth of the culture of soccer, of football in Canada is always a lot bigger than I think people, you know, give it credit for. There's so many people, so many clubs throughout this nation. You mentioned you kind of had an issue with that supporters group that handles, you know, the shield for the MLS and those sorts of things. What is kind of your, like, do you want to talk a little bit about what the issues you saw there were?
Yeah, I just think it's a bunch of like guys who are exclusionary. I feel like it's like we have a cool club and you can't be part of it. And I didn't want that at all for our league. Like, this was a chance to have an inclusive league for everybody that, I don't know, like they took everything so seriously. I got messages from them trying to like figure out who I was because they wanted to run the show for that. And I just thought it was super weird that the fans weren't the fans. It was like ultra groups kind of thing, like just exclusionary stuff.
Yeah, I think, and that's kind of the opposite of what I think we want to see in the Canadian soccer landscape.
Exactly.
Right? We want to see inclusionary, bring your friends, bring your family, bring someone new. Like, we want to bring everybody into that kind of that big red tent, I guess I'll say, if I steal a term from somewhere else.
That's exactly it.
It's really interesting though, the idea of putting together a sending over a spoon to a team saying, hey, congrats, or sorry, in a sense, you finished last in the league. Where did that kind of idea start from? That's a tradition from other places, isn't it?
Yeah, it comes out of England. It comes from sort of the old Arthurian colleges in England. You'd get the award if you finish last in a lot of different sports, and then it carried over to MLS and over here. I think maybe Australia has it. But for me, it was also like, I don't know, Canadians were good at taking the piss out of each other. And like, I didn't think anyone would be offended. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like we handle things better than other people.
Yeah, the banter is definitely, I think the banter is always done with a little bit of love, right? You know what I mean?
That's what it is. Yeah, exactly. Like, I never want anyone to feel bad. I just think it's like, you know.
So here's a question. Sorry. No, all good. I just wanted to know if you've ever did you actually send the spoon over to FC Edmonton that first year?
Well, Halifax won it the first year,
Or
and
okay.
yeah, the one has been sent to somebody within the organization each year. I make one every year for the teams. FC Edmonton were lucky because they also got iron-on badges.
Love it. Love it. Iron-on badges for the spoon. And I mean, I don't know if I saw them wear it, but we'd love it if we saw it, right?
I've heard one fan. I sent them. I gave I pressed a whole bunch of them, and I gave them away for fans because I didn't want to charge anybody any money because I'm obviously taking the piss. And I heard one fan put it on their kit, so I'm pretty happy.
I mean, that would be kind of funny. Hey, it's like, hey, I'm taking the piss on your team. Could you also pay me money to wear this on your kit?
Yeah, exactly.
So we're avoiding a little bit of the elephant in the room here. We had an amazing moment this morning as Canadian soccer fans, and I'd like to chat with that. Love to chat with that with you for a bit. Canada winning the gold medal at the Tokyo Olympics in a shootout, a penalty shootout with the Swedish team, a team that is incredibly strong and honestly was favored for this game. What was your feeling coming out of that match? Like, how did you react?
I was having a heart attack. I went and bought a bunch of beer. It was great, man. I don't know. If I'm going to be honest, I think Sweden kind of outplayed Canada a little bit. But at the end of the day, it's the result that speaks for itself, and we won it. We got the heart. We did it. And the penalties were the most nerve-wracking thing I think I've ever sat through, but it was amazing.
The stress of that morning, it was funny. My sister messaged me and she said that must have been the most stressful morning at work I've had in a long time. Had nothing to do with work.
It was killing me.
It 2 games where we go into penalties and it just felt like, the stress, the edge. And you're right. I think Sweden, let's tip our hat. Like, they played a very, very good game today.
They could so good.
They could have come out with a win just the same, but the heart from our team, that moment of scoring that pen and turning that I don't know if you've seen the picture going around where, she's turning back to the team and the looks on their faces is just one of those things where your body is completely in emotion. You don't even know what you're doing or what you're feeling. Being caught up in that, what a moment. I'm still kind of coming down from this high a little bit, and I'm hoping that, it doesn't go away for too long. But what was it like seeing Sinclair?
That was it, man. I cried. I'm not even gonna lie, man. I was with my partner, and we both were sitting here, and just tears were rolling down our faces.
If there was one member of the team, if you're gonna single out somebody who's put in their heart, of their career, they've put in the grind throughout different leagues, through different opportunities. Christine Sinclair. What I like to say is that she's sort of she's there through her own will and effort, as not a lot of Canadian, path to pro for women. She grinded it out, and to see her put that medal on, I couldn't think of anyone who deserved it more. It was a beautiful.
Yeah, it's almost like a swan song kind of moment, like she can't be much longer in the national team, not because we don't want her, but because she just had been put in so many years, and just to see her get that medal that's chills.
Absolute chills. I did see there was a tweet that she mentioned that she's planning to continue to play. She would like to be in the next, Women's World Cup. So let's just hope, that all lines up and we could see her, maybe don another trophy.
That would be incredible
before the end of her career. That would be the beautiful way of ending it.
That would.
What was your biggest takeaway from the Tokyo Olympics this year? Was there a moment, other than the gold medal win, obviously, that really stuck with you, that you felt like, hey, this team has what it takes to make this a win?
Taking America. And actually, like Rapini's comment about how I don't know if you saw that, she was saying that, like, Canada, I never lost to Canada, and some Canadians kind of took it wrong. I thought it was pretty amazing that, like, America still sees Canada as an adversary, even though we haven't, like, beaten them that much.
Yeah, and I think
that felt good.
It felt good to see her, and I think that comment, maybe people took it the wrong way a little bit.
Me too. I felt it respectful.
Yeah, like if you watched the end of the game, you saw the interactions between Megan and through different members of the Canadian team, including Sinclair, and there's respect. There's nothing but respect between those girls. They have
100%.
When they go out, do they want to beat the crap out of the other team that they're playing? Absolutely. But they're all competitors, and they have an incredible respect, I think, for that competitive edge. I think Megan's comment was really just, the shock of the moment. The shock of the moment. She's never lost to Canada. It's
That was it, I think.
and for those girls, who grew up on the team losing to the Americans, this powerhouse of women's football for so long, to knock them out and go into that gold medal. At that point I was saying, you know what? I know it's no one wants to root for second place, right? But a silver was going to be just as much of an achievement in that sense, because we knocked off the Americans. We made that step that we had really struggled to take the past, 10 to 20 years.
And upgraded the medal, right? So yeah, I would have been happy with the silver. Can't believe it. Still sort of. I think I'm in shock a little bit, to be honest.
It is shocking. Like it's. I keep reminding myself, like, we just won the gold medal in women's soccer. Like we're on the top of the hill right now.
It's insane.
It's a great feel. Tedia mentioning that he may or may not have cried tears of joy at his desk at work. He was glad no client came in during that. I mean, you could explain it. Canada just won. Come and sit with me.
Watch. Shout out to him, man. He's what a guy.
Yeah, Tedium, if you don't know, great member of the Canadian soccer community, a big part of the Canadian soccer Discord, which you should be a part of. If you're not, and you're a Canadian soccer fan, and you have Discord, why are you not in there? Be in there. Find the link. Google it.
Respect.
Exactly. So moving on to the next, I kind of wanted to pick your brain a little bit on your love of football, love of soccer. So we talked a bit about, the account. We talked obviously about the Canadian women's team win this morning, but I'd love to dive into your love of the game. Where did that start? So where did you first kind of get into football?
It was sort of a family thing. Like my family's kind of from the East Coast, and the East Coast has a pretty big soccer football scene going on there. But it really, really happened when I was hanging out with this hooligan, who was a Celtic hooligan, and just it game over at that point. When you get into it was like an indoctrination. It was just sort of like you understand the lifestyle, and it was sold. I was a hockey kid growing up, to be honest, and I don't know. I guess kind of outgrew hockey.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, because I'm kind of feeling the same way over the last. I got a Jets hat on for those who are watching, but I grew up a hockey fan. I played hockey. I dabbled a little bit in soccer when I was a kid, baseball, different sports. Were you kind of the same way? Did you kind of?
Yeah, that was exactly it. But so I grew up in like the suburbs, and it was very, I don't know, ethnically one way, and when you get into football, suddenly now you have an access to more of your community or other communities, and I don't know, I always felt like an outcast in other sports, and no, I'm not.
It's interesting again you mentioning that, because that's something I think is an astounding difference. Like if you go to a hockey game, you go to a hockey event, or even just participate in community hockey, you see the privilege is kind of attached with the sport. Like it's an expensive sport to play, not only just the registration fees, but the equipment, the travel, the tournaments. Like it's a very expensive sport. Whereas I feel like when I go to a Valour game, instead of a Jets game, I feel like it's much more of an accurate shot of what this country is made up of. And it's a variety of cultures. It's a variety of stories of places that they've come from. And there's nothing cooler than walking through a ground and seeing loads of different kits, like from all over the world. It's not just Canadian.
It's so
kids.
Amazing.
That really kind of, it felt like you connected to something that was more than just this team's fan base. Do you know what I mean?
Like I do get that 100%.
And so when I first went to a Canadian Premier League game, I think that same feeling you're describing is exactly what came over me. It's like I felt like I belonged. I felt like I was in this authentic place where people were welcoming and open. What was your first game that you attended? Did you feel something like that when you went?
Yeah. It was Old Firm. And it was amazing.
So did you obviously flew over?
Yeah.
Saw an Old Firm match. What year was that, if you don't mind me asking?
I don't know, it was a while ago, like 20 years ago.
So
it was when Rangers were still Rangers.
Rangers were still Rangers before they had their little hiccup, let's say. And I don't want to get in too much trouble. I have some Scottish friends here, so I try to stay away from that Old Firm conversation as much as I can. It can bring up a lot of passion. But what was the game like attending? Like, I'm imagining sold out grounds.
Insane. Dude, as a little Canadian kid, like little Canadian boy, you don't understand. It was next level.
I mean, that's the dream. See a stand filled to the brim, people
And like the
chanting,
fear,
people
no, it
singing.
was honestly it was exhilarating because it was almost fearful. Like like there's a real element to it there. There's something that like I don't know, you're kind of scared the whole time. That makes it more fun. Not that I condone any of that kind of stuff, and I don't want it in here, but like when you want to go show someone a sport, it was a very real moment.
Yeah, there's an intensity level, right? Like we certainly don't want to see some of the River Plate versus Boca,
Exactly, yeah.
Celtic versus Rangers. Like it can get toxic, but if you peel back that 10-12% of the people who are maybe doing toxic things, the intensity, there is a bit of an edge, right?
Yeah, it's exhilarating.
So you got into the old firm. Your hooligan friend gets you into it a little bit.
Yeah.
At what point do you start getting into Canadian football or Canadian soccer? Toronto Lynx. Tell us about the Toronto Lynx a little bit for those who don't know.
They were a USL club. They were sort of a birth TFC. They played a couple places in Toronto. U Sector, actually, which is a big supporter group for TFC, I think is based out of that. Bunch of guys in CPLs like Matt Silva. He was on Toronto Lynx. It was sort of the stepping stone that led to TFC, which then became my love after the Lynx kind of folded, and then followed the TFC, followed the Lynx, and then now I'm in CPL.
So it's interesting when we talk about Canadian, especially for those overseas, we'll always mention, oh, this team went defunct, like this team disappeared.
Yeah.
Then I moved to this team, right? It's something relatively unique to the North American kind of soccer
and
world.
Canadian landscape, man.
Right? Like you have to sort of grab a hold of these clubs and love them when they're there, because the reality is it's been tough for some of these leagues to exist and to continue that.
Dude, and I used to watch CSL, and like I followed a lot of CSL clubs, and that's a pariah league. So the whole league then kind of folds. You know what I mean? Like you'll lose the whole league, not even just your team. I don't know.
It's a weird experience to explain to someone, especially for those overseas who are like, a club is a club. It's part of this community. It's not something that can disappear. It's not something that can but it does happen. Yeah. But over here, it's just you go. I always say to people, go on Wikipedia, look up the list of defunct North American soccer leagues, look up the ones in Canada, and just go through them, because it's actually pretty incredible the amount of consistent effort that people are willing to put, because I think, and and I know that's going to work eventually. It's
it, right, man? That's it. And like you got to think too, like we don't support clubs like they're like the Metro Croatia, or like I said now they're like Toronto Croatians or whatever, but like, or Serbian White Eagles. Let's say Serbian White Eagles. Like they're a CSL club. They don't get nearly the respect they deserve because they're in CSL, but they've been around forever and they've been killing it. Like we ditch clubs so quickly here, and it sucks. And I don't know. Yeah, it drives me nuts.
And it's interesting you mentioned the club, because those Croatian, Serbian clubs in the CFL are relatively well known overseas. People know of them, right? Huge. But yet that league, for those who don't know, the Canadian, like the CFL, not the gridiron version, the Canadian Soccer League, the CSL is not sanctioned by the federation. Is that correct?
Yeah, so they there were some match fixing issues that happened a bunch of years ago, and so the whole league was desanctioned, and that's what gave birth to League One. Like after the desanction happened, a bunch of the clubs who were legit kind of went and formed League One, and we're still seeing some clubs move over. Like Roma Wolves were in CSL, now Roma Wolves are in League One, so it's still, the migrations are still happening.
What do you think the ultimate? What would your ideal end goal for the structure in Canada look like?
Tough, man. So one, we don't know if there's franchise. Sorry, no,
it's okay. This is cool. This podcast is marked as explicit, so feel free to express yourself in any way you want.
Wonderful. I'm getting the beers in me. I'm still celebrating. If CPL the franchise model, I don't know what they can do for Div 2. It's hard to sell someone a franchise and then say maybe you're going to lose your spot. Mm-hmm. So I'm cool with CPL being like an MLS in Canada, and then having a Div 2 with ProRel, if in my ideal world, it's like CPL's top, Div 2 is divided East and West Conference. The two winners of those get promoted, and then below that, it's all provincial leagues, or like hybrid provincial leagues, I guess, for some of the places that have lower population wise.
That's kind of how I've always thought of it, is that, the second tier is that kind of national east-west, whatever split it is, your division two. And then you have these kind of already existing provincial leagues in most of the provinces, not all, but some, that would slot in quite naturally into that third tier and give opportunities to these clubs. Yeah. Here's a question for you. Do you have a favorite club in Canada that most people don't know about?
Like active or not active?
Active.
Yeah, I mean,
and I'll ask you inactive too.
All right, I can definitely do inactive. Inactive is very easy, man. Edmonton Aviators. They were a USL club that had no chance. Like they was promised golden tickets to everybody. They were playing Commonwealth Stadium, and it was like a little team. There was no fan. It was huge. It was just nuts. The whole situation was nuts. They folded within like 6 months. The league took it over, and then they rebranded. It's just wild. Good story for anyone that wants to look that up. Steven Stander is the guy to message if you have any questions about him. He's a longtime Edmonton football reporter. When it comes to, like, I guess, favorite clubs, it's tough. I do really like Blainville. I gotta say that they're a heart and soul team. I like Bon Azzurri, but like I don't like them because they're rivals in my League One club. But like Blainville have been putting in the work for a long time, and they're a staple in the landscape. Ottawa St. Anthony. I'll shout out Ottawa St. Anthony as well. They actually beat Toronto Lynx in the amateur competition a long time ago.
What I love is I really did put you on the spot there, and we ended up with a couple, which is fantastic. It shows the breadth of your knowledge, Spoon. Like you really do. For those who don't follow CPLWoodenSpoon, please go on Twitter at CPLWoodenSpoon, give him a follow, and start scrolling, because he actually will drop a lot of little bits of, hey, you should check out this account, or you should look into this club, or hey, check out this picture. Like it's nice to see that their history goes way farther back than we give it credit for. And one of the things I think, Canada has, living here, we talked a bit about, you grow up a hockey fan, you sort of have to, in a way, be stubborn not to be a hockey fan. But the thought that I'm getting to here is we it seems that in the hockey world, if I'm a Jets fan and you're a Leafs fan, the banter immediately starts, and it's a very different situation. Whereas if you're a York fan, I'm just going to say, guess York fan or Atlético fan or Halifax, and I'm like, oh, I'm a Valour fan. Yeah, we're going to have a little bit of friendly banter, but at the same time, there's almost an allegiance. There's almost an allyship of, hey, we're in the same league, we want the same thing. And there's a love in a sense of, hey, you and me, we're the same. We may not cheer for the same club, and I'm not going to like when you beat me, but hey, we're buddies. Like, let's have a beer. Let's go watch the game. Let's talk about it. Right. Like
exactly.
That's
what makes it beautiful. That's what the sport is so beautiful. The only exception to that rule is TFC Montreal.
Tell us about that. Have you gone to a TFC Montreal match? What is it like going to those games? I've never been to a MLS derby. So
close to the firm games, man. Like pretty close. I'm pulling off my sticker. I'm pulling off my TFC stickers off my car just so I don't want anyone smashing my window. They are nuts. They're good. I mean, there's a level of like friendly banter. Then there's a level of like a bit angry, drunk banter, and then there's like ultras who are like meeting in the parking lot. It's fun.
That sounds intense and a load of fun. Like the away days, being able to take the train, drive up to Montreal, whatever it is, that must be really, really nice. I mean, as a Winnipegger, we're sort of in the middle of nowhere, and to be able to see an away game, it's a much longer trip, much more of a planned out exercise. Yeah. How many derby games like that have you gone to?
Oh, I don't know. Can't count, man.
Can't count. Are you not a member of one of the supporters?
No, I have zero affiliations with any club or any team.
So you're purely Canada first. I'm here for everybody. Let's go.
I'm here for the history. I'm here for the matches. I'm here to just celebrate that we have this, because 10 years ago we didn't even have this.
Yep. I think that's another thing that people often forget. And I, myself, when I first, got into Football Manager, then got into football and really became the addict that I am now, I didn't realize how young some of these TFC, like the TFC club is relatively young. in terms of you look back at the history of the sport, it's very young. It's a junior team in that sense. It's still young, still growing, and they've had success. And obviously they're struggling now, but that's a club that has really done a great job building that atmosphere, building the support around that team. Because when I watch it on TV, it looks as close to as you're going to get in terms of that European vibe.
I want to plug. I want to plug something for Josh Cloak. He got a book called "Come On You Reds: History of TFC." Highly recommend everyone watch it or read it. Sorry, if you want to know a little bit about Canadian football, it's incredible, and it also has the connections to like CPL because Paul Bernier and stuff was at TFC before he launched the league. The way that they interacted with supporters to get a real deal, it's incredible. TFC, I know that there's sort of a divide sometimes in CPL's community about anti-MLS because it's an American league, blah, blah, blah. But CPL wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the MLS teams.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. It's something I've noticed too, is that there is a little bit of divide, a little bit of CPL versus MLS, especially the first year or two. But I'm starting to see that fade a little bit because I think,
dude, seriously fading because now the loans and stuff are happening.
Right, I think people didn't realize that, and maybe I'm making the wrong assumption here, but I felt like maybe some thought the Canadian Premier League was being set up to directly compete with the MLS.
Yep.
And I think, from my understanding, I never looked at it that way. I looked at it as a chance that we were going to kind of grow underneath them. Yeah. And maybe one day we'll have that conversation again, 10, 20 years from now. But right now they're in a much bigger league that's well established.
The way I look at it, man, I look at it like MLS is EPL and CPL is the Scottish Premier League. We got our Calvary, we got our Forge, they're Celtic Rangers, and then you got a TFC that's like EPL. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's interesting because I never really bought into that narrative of oh, you're MLS, ooh,
yeah,
you know
exactly.
what I mean? Like for me, one of the things that me and my buddy would love to do, the guy that I sit at every Valour game with, is we've been wanting to go down and see a Minnesota game just because of their new ground. I want to sit in the corner 3 feet from someone and not sit 10 feet up and back.
Dude, and shout out Minnesota because they had the Flyover Cup with FC Edmonton way back in the day when I don't know if you've ever heard of the Flyover Cup.
No, never.
You should look it up. It's back in the Nassau days. It was a cup because FC Edmonton helped Minnesota when they had, I forget what the two problems were, but there was some sort of crisis and FC Edmonton raised some funds for them, and then they raised some funds for Edmonton when there were some wildfires. So they started this cup called the Flyover Cup, and yes, pretty interesting. The way Canada has impacted other clubs that you see in MLS and you don't even realize it. It's part of the problem that's sort of why I'm here. It's to try to make sure it's not on the fault of anyone. You know what I mean? I don't think it's ignorance or lack of knowledge or care from the Canadian fans. It's just,
yeah, but you're hitting a note there too, right? I think that there's also, I think there's a lot of people who've jumped into the Canadian Premier League or gone to games who are also relatively new and are comfortable saying,
yeah.
I'm new, I'm new. What do I do? Where do I sit? How does this work? I'll tell you a little story, Spoon, totally honest. Me and my buddy, when we first bought seats, we really didn't know where to sit. Didn't really have an idea. And I hadn't really talked to Nikki from Red River Rising, shout out
Nikki.
Fantastic supporter group here in Winnipeg. And so we bought seats right in the middle of the ground facing, right at the center. And we were sitting there with, families and folks, but it wasn't the supporters group. People were just kind of chatting. And we ended up actually getting a couple of folks. So we were chatting along with the supporters, which were further down, and we're singing along, VFC. And I had a couple of folks turn and go, shh, can you keep it down, please? And we were like, hey, this isn't what we signed up for.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the struggle of the league. So I go to York games because I'm close to there. It's I was sitting near their supporter section the other day, and they put families in the supporter section, I guess, because they couldn't sell tickets. And it was just not a good scene.
Yeah, it's something I think also the clubs need to learn, right? Is that we're used to, in North America, everyone sits wherever they want. You can have supporters mixed, all that kind of stuff. And I think once you realize what type of fan you are, in the sense of do I want to sit in the supporter spot? And then when I'm in the supporter seat, do I want to be at the front because I'm going to be intense the whole time, or I'm going to sit back a little bit because I'm going to be standing with my beer, or I'm going to be right at the back because I want to see everything, right? we didn't realize where we belonged. And once we found that spot, you're surrounded by people who all are in the same intense level that you are, and it's just this family.
And how amazing is that feeling? Like that's what I love about the game, man. Like you don't get that in hockey, you don't get that in baseball.
No.
You find your spot in the stadium when it comes to football,
and you see the same people. Whereas I went to Jets games, my dad had season tickets, and every time I went, it was a different group because everybody's selling their tickets around. Like you have 40 some games a year.
Yeah.
You miss a few here and there. Whereas it's like Valour, I'm going to be there every game. I'm counting it down till they come home. I know they were home for the bubble, but didn't get a chance to see them when they were here. So I'm counting it down. I might have a little tear when I walk into that ground.
Hey man, and like the way it spreads too. I watched my first Bombers game. I never watched CFL once. I watched the Bombers versus Ticats the other day because of Valour. So
yeah, it's funny how it ends up all connecting together, right? I'm just thinking about one of the first season was such a mix of experiences for us as Valour fans, because there's a lot of downs in some of the games, but we were still like incredibly hyped that we had this team. We were bought in. Did you go to York games that first season? What was your
I'm near York, so I've gone to all the York games, York 9, I guess, before. Yeah, no, I'm good, man. I shout out to Gen 9. Gen 9, they brought it, and that atmosphere is missing this year. It was intense. I never went to go near them, but they brought a big party atmosphere. I think York got it wrong with the branding. I don't know about the new branding, but we'll see how it goes.
I was just going to ask about that actually, because I have the York 9. Obviously, there was some memes around Yorkie, and I think some of those things are fun. Like I'm not taking.
Yeah, me too. I want Yorkie to come back. I love that guy, man.
Like he came out, he was spooky, and then as time passed, we were all like, "Where's Yorkie? I miss Yorkie. I want Yorkie back." Like,
yeah, he's the one thing they need to bring back.
What do you think they got wrong with that rebrand? Did they need to rebrand at all in the first place?
Tough, man. They needed to rebrand if they wanted to hit the Toronto market, which I've heard that most of their season tickets were in Toronto. The problem, and why I've heard why Gen 9 isn't part of it anymore, is that they promised themselves the York Region Club, and while York Region doesn't have sort of an identity itself, the club was supposed to be what brought about that identity, and then just kind of bail on it after 2 years. I can understand being a little bit heated about that.
Yeah, and then just as a far away observer, I also think this tagging on United is kind of lazy.
I hate it.
It's kind of lazy, like.
It's not even United, because United usually means the clubs that have united. Like it comes from multiple clubs coming together. I don't know.
It just
I will say like... I do have the jersey. I love that. I love that new kit that they have, their away kit. So
yeah, the new kits are really, really nice. I feel like the white one with the striping really it feels like an old school kind of Portugal jersey or something from the Portuguese.
That one feels Portugal and the other one feels French to me.
Yeah, actually, yeah, absolutely. And I actually really like their dark. But I'm always a sucker for dark kits. Like you can throw a dark kit in front of me, and 9 times out of 10 I'll go, yep, I'll take that.
And I drink a lot of coffee, so I don't want to spill it on my white kit.
Right? That's painful. So what are you looking forward to the rest of the year here for the Canadian Premier League? Are you looking forward to maybe York turning around, surprising folks, moving up to the top of the table? Are you looking forward to Valour regaining, the top of the league? What is it you're looking forward
to? I do really love the Valour. Like, shout out to Rob Gale, man. He got his shit 2 years going. People didn't respect that man as much as they should have, and he's finally started getting it now. So shout out Rob Gale. I do love the Valour sort of story. Sure, if York could kill it, I'd also be happy. I don't think they will. I don't think that they're the club looking to do that. I think that they're looking to be a selling team right now. I think they have to try to recoup costs. I am excited for the Forge CONCACAF League storyline because they blew it last year. They had 3 shots.
Yeah.
Missed all of them. So we'll see what's happening there. Calgary's an interesting one because they came out swinging and sort of into the middle of the packet, and obviously Bustos, man. Bustos is what a guy. What else can you say?
I mean, for me, it's whenever I see Bustos, like there's 2 thoughts: one, what a player, and B, Man, we had him on our team.
Oh, dude. Did you see Pacific's tweet on the Valour like social media when they did the Messi one?
Yeah.
Yeah. So good. That was so good.
There's another thing that we need to talk about actually before we go. The social media teams in this league, for the most part,
are pretty good.
Are really good. Like Valour, I think
Valour's the best by far.
I think I was just gonna say, I'm not trying to be biased, but I think Valour, those 2 years of taking the piss from everybody else, they were taking notes, right? Like they were getting ready for like when there's gonna be a year, we're gonna remember this and we're gonna drop some great content.
Dude, and even like the emojis or like not emojis, the gifs and stuff of like Gale, like dude, your team, like Valour. I don't know. I love Valour. They're my second team. I'll say that right now on the podcast. You got me here.
Love it.
Second team.
Love it. I mean, Nikki would love to hear you. Whenever you come out here, we'll throw a spoon mask on you. No one will know who you are, and you can come hang out with us. All right.
Wonderful.
I'm so excited to get back to that ground. It's hard for me not to keep wanting to talk about that, but
yeah.
We talked you talked a little bit about the Champions League. There's another unique kind of interesting situation, I think, in Canadian Premier League. I can't speak for every fan, but I know the fans around me. You know, we don't care which team. Obviously, we'd love our team to be there. But if there's a Canadian Premier League team and
we go for it, yeah,
League, we're behind them 100%. So when I see Forge in there, I love it. Like I want them to win. I want them to do well. I want them to remind the rest of CONCACAF where we're
how
from.
Uniquely Canadian is that? Like I love like that's what I was saying earlier about like the banter and like I'll talk shit about your team until they have a chance to do something my team can't, and then I'm all aboard yours.
Yeah,
and I think that might go away eventually, but I don't think anytime in the near future. And I don't want it to go away, to be honest. Like I love that we all unite as like a force. You know, it's like first it's CPL versus MLS, and then when MLS gets to the Champions League, then it's like, all right, well, MLS now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's. I want people to remember that the Canadian soccer has a place.
That's it
here, and that we're not going away. It's only going to be getting better. And I think one of the things that really I loved about the Gold Cup, as much as that Mexico result was incredibly infuriating, is that Mexico knows we're here now.
Yeah, we showed up.
You know, it's not a game that they can, think about casually when they go into those qualifiers. Canada is going to be dangerous. Canada is going to be on them. And there's a lot of talent in this country and it's youthful. So just be ready.
Be ready. I was reading a thing earlier today about how, like, should Americans start respecting Canada rather than being like, oh, hey, good for you guys. Like, you got here. Like, because we just keep killing them.
No, I want them to respect us forever. Just show the love. But that being said, I have a few friends who are U.S. National team fans, and I have to say most of them have been really loving and respectful of what our team's accomplished. I'm sure that'll go away in time. If we continue to do well, it'll be a bit more sour. Like, oh, can you guys just stop doing that? That kind of thing. But I'm looking forward to that anyway. Question in the chat here for you from Tedium. Who is your player to watch this year?
Oh, Max Ferrari, not at the York 9 bias or York United bias, but dude, look at Max Ferrari. That kid is the kid, and he is just destroying it. He might not be getting the goals and stuff, but the way he plays is just pure intensity.
Cool. Next question. Yellow, well, not even a question, more of a comment. Yellow Sweaty Gorilla says, where else do fans follow 5 to 6 games a week, all of the teams becoming our team? I don't mind the sport returning to a place where that doesn't happen, but right now I'm savoring all of this football. Like, that's nailing it on the head there.
That is nailing it on the head, yeah.
Yellow Sweaty Gorilla. It's like, I'm looking
shout out to Ed.
Big shout out to Ed. And every time's Ed here, I'm going to mention it. This man creates my dream FM database every year, puts together the Canadian Premier League database,
and a huge part of the PFA, or like the supporter groups for the PFA. Like, guys killing it.
Huge part of the PFA, and a guy that I'm constantly trying to entice to come on the show, but we'll see. We'll eventually see. I don't even remember what we were talking about, but it's that love of the sport that I think is all, and I hope that never goes away. As much as there's going to be more banter and there's going to be more, back and forth, I hope that the love of the sport continues to grow. And I think that,
yeah, me too.
All you got to do is look at the amateur signups in this country, and you're seeing basketball and soccer. Those are the two that are growing. They're the most accessible sports. Are there issues still in terms of cost? Yeah, absolutely there is. but that's something that I think, in time we're gonna be able to address and do better.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
So before we leave off here, where can people connect with you these days, Spoony? I know we've talked about the Twitter account, so CPLWoodenSpoon. Is there anywhere else that people can connect with you?
I mean, I'm on the Discord pretty often. I'm pretty approachable on Twitter or Discord. So if anyone has any questions or anything like that, just hit me up.
Sounds great. Big thank you for coming on the show today, buddy. I really do appreciate it. Love the background. For those who are listening to the podcast, he's got a lovely Wooden Spoon award, a couple of nice scarves on the side. The man is a spoon. Let's give him the love he deserves. Thank you so much for being here, CPLWoodenSpoon. We really appreciate your time, and thank you again for being here.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Enjoy the beers. Enjoy the vibes. Canada, #1 women's team. Let's go.
Will do, man.
All right. Talk soon.
See ya.
So that was CPLWoodenSpoon, a Twitter account, a man of mystery, a Canadian soccer nut. He's all sorts of things. Historical knowledge is crazy. Thank you for being here, CPLWoodenSpoon. Really do appreciate you jumping in. Without further ado, we're going to jump into the next interview, which I'm going to be totally honest, I'm a little nervous. I'm interviewing Jose Galan, one of the most favorite Valour FC players here in Winnipeg. We're really excited to have him on. For those who don't know Jose, he started at the Atlético Madrid Academy. He's traveled throughout the world for his career, loads of different clubs, loads of different countries. The experiences that he's had, I would just like to pick his brain a little bit, see what we can learn, what his experiences were like, and have a chance to get to know him a little bit better. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring in Jose. Jose, how are you? Can you hear me?
Yes. What? Yeah. Let me see. What is this? Maybe I should put it like this. Better.
Either way works great. Thanks so much for taking the time today, Jose. I really do appreciate it.
No, I appreciate you always are in Twitter, in the different media accounts like Instagram, whatever, supporting, cheering up for us. So I really appreciate all your support. And of course, when you invite me, I cannot say no to extend your new show.
Hey, you know what? You're too nice. You could have said no. I would have been totally okay with it. But hey, thank you so much for your time today, and appreciate you taking the time. I know that you're probably in the midst of a lot of different things, so we're loving that you're here. So before we get started, for those who don't know you, you play in the Canadian Premier League. You've been a footballer for looks like most of your life. I'd love to talk a little bit about where you grew up and your first touch and your first love with the sport. What was your first memory of football, Jose?
Well, my first memory was to play in my village, especially in summer. All the boys were there out of the city, out of like a kind of a village that people go there for summer. And I was always was the youngest one, probably the shortest as well. So that helped me a lot to develop my game. When you have to fight against kids who are 3, 4, 5 years older than you. One of them was my brother, who is 3 years older than me. You have to develop that skills, and another strength. So I think it helped me a lot. And all the time I was playing soccer. In my city, I was already kind of known because of the people call me. I don't know if you remember the series. I don't know how is actually the name in English. Oliver Atom, the series, Japanese series of soccer. And because they always see me with a ball on my hand when I was 10, 11, 8 years old playing, they say, "Look, here is Oliver again," and it was kind of funny. My love for the game, until I got a spot from a coach in a event, in a tournament, when I was 10 years old in my village, as I mentioned before. He spotted me and he scouted me and called me for the main team of my hometown. So that was my first memory of playing. I think it was around 8 years old, 9, something like that.
That's really incredible to think that you're only 8 years old and here you are being identified. People in the village know you. They've got a nickname for you. That's really, really cool. Tell us a little bit about your village, where you grew up. What was it like growing up there? What was the town like? What was the size like? What was your day-to-day like?
Yeah, actually, I was born in León, which is really, really beautiful city, historical city in the northwest of Spain. My childhood, it was always sounds like typical, no, but it was um, with a ball around, playing soccer anytime I have, finish my homework and running. I remember it was funny because we have like a 4 against 4 field. Okay, it was a public place, and you just pick your team and go there and you play. The team who wins stay. No, it's 2 goals and it stays. And it was a huge, like for us on that age. Again, we play against people even 16 years old, 17, and I was only maybe 10, 11. So if you lose, you have to stay maybe out of playing for 1 hour or 1 hour and a half. So you have to be really competitive not to lose. And even on that age, again, my team or a couple of players, like we won, and we're kind of the best team there. And again, I think it helped me a lot to develop my competitive level. And it was funny because when I finished the homework and my mother said, okay, then you can go, instead of going walking, I take like 20 minutes. I went there running just to not miss even some minutes to play. And that could be a sum up or a resume of my love for the game. Even since I was a really child, I was focused on being a professional footballer. When I was 12 years old, I got selected for like national team of Spain. My parents only focus on myself. Like, it's so difficult to play football, so just focus on a study. They didn't care too much about football, even if they didn't like the game, but they only care about study. Study is so difficult to make it professional. It's impossible. You're not gonna make it. There are so many good kids around there. At the same time, they told me that so many times, like 13, 14 years old. When I was 13, they offered me contract for Valencia, for Real Valladolid. I was close to sign, even being a real child, with 13 years old. But my parents didn't allow me. They told me, now you have to focus first on your studies. It helped me to finish my studies of psychology. I have a degree of psychology, but at the same time, kind of motivation because my parents didn't trust on me. Like, they say, oh, it's very difficult. It's here in Spain. There are so many talent players. So it was like, okay, you know what? So I'm going to make it. So you always tell me your study is so difficult, blah, blah, blah. So I was kind of stubborn to make my dream and to say, okay, I will show you that I can do both things. Like, I can play football in a professional level, and at the same time I can study a degree.
And I think it's really amazing sitting here, years later, here you are a professional footballer, and you also have your psychology degree, which is pretty incredible, to think about the amount of time it would take to do those things at the same time. So you're getting scouted. At what point does Atlético Madrid get in contact with you? At what point do you hear from that club?
Well, when I was 15 years old, they already contacted me, some of the best teams in Spain, Deportivo La Coruña, Espanyol, Villarreal. But the thing is my hometown team, in that time, they were like trying to get the team in a professional level. They were in second division B, which is the third tier in Spain. They wanted to promote. They have a great project ahead, and they told me, no, we don't allow you to go, which is a little bit. With 15 years old, it was my dream to play in a team like Atlético Madrid or those teams I mentioned, but they didn't allow me, and it was kind of disappointing for age of a boy of this age, But then the vice president of the team, they told me, okay, we don't allow you to go now, but if in 2 years we are not in first division of Spain in La Liga, we let you go when you are 16, 17 years old. And I said, okay. So I kept playing there, and with 17 years old, they didn't promote, unfortunately, because that's my first team. It's not Real Madrid, Atlético Madrid. My first team is Cultural Leonesa, which is my hometown team. But they didn't promote, and that guy, because other people on the board didn't allow me even after that promise to go. But this guy is the brass person. I say, I gave my word to this guy and to his father. So now we didn't promote, so I let you go. And in that time, to be honest with you, I pick up Atlético Madrid, not because of the professional side, that of course it was an important side, but because in Madrid I could select or pick any degree I wanted.
Okay.
Some, I don't know, in La Coruña there were some degrees that you cannot study there. So in Madrid you have all the options, and that's why I chose Atlético Madrid, and it was the perfect decision because we have an amazing team. And the first year I played there, we beat Real Madrid for more than 11 points in La Liga. So we were the best team, like the favorite team for winning the Spanish Champions League in that moment with 17, 18 years old. But there was a player called Messi in that time that came into our way, and we were drawing the game 2-2, and he scored 2 goals. We lost 4-2, and we couldn't win the championship. But I start to realize what is a professional environment with 16, 17 years old when I signed there for Atlético Madrid. Yeah.
I mean, what an experience, and what a quick way to be thrown into a very professional environment with a lot of players who are, well known to this day. What was your biggest memory from your time at Atlético Madrid?
Probably I would say that the game against Real Madrid. My family, my brother, my father are really, really Real Madrid supporters, and we played that away. It was so important game for us, and I scored 1 goal, and then I gave the assist of the other. I still keep the memories, the picture taking the jersey off, and for that age, making impact in that game, big game for us, being under 18 years old against Real Madrid was my team also. When I was a child, I was support Real Madrid, so it was kind of an incredible moment. But after that, I would say also with the 18 years old, I was called by the reserve team of Atlético Madrid, which is called Atlético Madrid B, which is not normal. Normally, the players there, they are 20, 21, 22, 23 even years old, and I was only 18, and the coach saw something on me. It was Pepe Murcia. Right now he's coaching in Qatar, and I always said he trusts on me a lot. He gave me a lot of trust to being called like Atlético Madrid B in that moment. So those two are probably my biggest memories in that time.
And so you mentioned that you had chosen Madrid as well, so you could choose whatever kind of degree you wanted. Did you finish your psychology degree while you were at Atlético Madrid, or was that something that took a few more years?
No, it took much more years because then I signed for Almería. Again, I chose Almería instead of Deportivo La Coruña or Sporting de Gijón because Almería have the psychology degree, so I could continue to study there, and they just promote to La Liga. So I finished the degree before I start my career abroad there in Almería. Yeah.
Question for you on the psychology degree. Do you think that the psychology degree has helped you as a professional athlete in terms of your ability to kind of handle stress or understand how the mind works?
I hope it was gonna help me, but I tell you it didn't. I always see. I even work with some sports psychologists in my career. I think it's really important and really helped me. In Spain, probably, I don't know, now it's something like 20 years ago, nobody worked with a psychologist, but now most of the sportmen, individual sports and even collective or team sport like football, I can tell you that Valencia, Betis, like most of the teams work with a psychologist. But to study the degree, I always try to, I see things, and then I can do this in football. But I would say I always see the problems in others. Like, this is easy. I speak to them, I give my advice. But when it's your own thing, it's more difficult, not to to do it. I don't really think, to be honest with you, that it helped me through my career. Even that I think my best attribute being a footballer is the resilient. I never give up. I never so many obstacles in my career, and I never give up. But I don't think it's because of the studying a psychology degree.
I was just curious because it is, like you mentioned, it's something that's more of a standard staff, involvement at some of those top level clubs. You have sports psychologists now, right? So you talked a little bit about your time at Almería, and I'm sure I'm saying it wrong, so apologies. I'm trying to pronounce it correctly, but you were actually coached by Unai Emery. What was that like?
Well, actually, yeah, I signed with a purpose in Almería that I signed for a second team, which it was in reserve team also in second division B. But the team in La Liga have already great players like Negredo, and Emery was the coach. The first game we play like reserve team against first team. Same thing will happen a long time the years before with Atlético Madrid, that I play against Simeone, was a still player. That speak a little bit how old I am, like I'm really old, because Simeone was still a player, not a coach. And it kind of get me disappointed because Agüero on that time it was my age, and he was already playing in the first team of Atlético Madrid. So sometimes when you're in Atlético Madrid, you think, oh, in Spain we're like that. Oh, I'm a big player. I'm gonna make professional. I'm an Atlético Madrid. It's one of the best teams in Spain. But let me tell you, from 22 players with 18 years old already, that you are already a developed player. I think we made professional career maybe 5. So it's not that easy. And when you see Agüero on that level, it's okay. I think I'm still far away of that level. I should be in a better level. He's 17. He's even younger than me. He's performing in La Liga. So when I signed for Almería, I said, okay, I need to make a step forward. You are not a kid anymore, and yeah, I start to play to train with the reserve team. But the first chance we got against the La Liga team, with Emery was the coach, we play a friendly game, and I think Emery saw something in me that he put me after that game. He called me after the game. I got a fight against Felipe Melo. He was playing there in the midfielder, a Brazilian player, amazing CV. He played national team of Brazil. He played Juventus, Fiorentina. So it was kind of big. When we fight in the game, like I was still a young player, and I didn't come back. Like I facing, I didn't get fear. I think that fact about my personality, whatever. Emery saw something in me, also my game. After that day, he told me, "Hey, I want this guy with the first team, training every day." And there I started everything for Almería. 4 year, amazing 4 years. Probably I would say my peak of my career. The best football I always play in my life. I think.
So from there, you played a lot of games at Almería, and like you mentioned, it was getting number 28, wearing it in La Liga. What a memory, right? Like incredible. And then you actually head over to Indonesia, I think is next. Is that correct? Or where do you go next?
No, Thailand.
Thailand, right. Okay. So you went to Thailand next. What brought you to Thailand? What enticed you to go to Thailand?
Well, I got a ACL tour in the moment, I could say, the most important moment of my career, because Emery was gone. Hugo Sanchez, the Mexican legend, also was there as coach. He called me for pre-season, but in that moment I passed 23 years old. I was 24, and there is like a rule in Spain that you cannot go back and forth from the second team to the first when you are above 23. So they have to select if continue with me with the second team or with the first. And Hugo Sanchez say, "No, I want this guy for the preseason. For me, it's part of the first team." So it was a huge thing for me. But after that preseason, I tore my ACL. Same injury that Andrew Jean-Baptiste. But I want to say, actually, through your program, like send him strength because he's at home and he's such an important person and player for Valour. But yeah, that's a very, very bad injury, the worst I got in my career. You know that you're gonna be more than 6, 8 months out of the on the field, and it killed my moment. I finished my contract with Almería, so after that moment, it was the decision. I said, okay, I want to play abroad. In the first moment, I wanted to go to Hungary. There was one team interested in me. It's called Zalaegerszeg, but one ex-teammate from Atlético Madrid was playing there, and he told me they were not getting paid. The players were making a strike because they were not getting paid. So I said, oh, I have to change my plans. And I heard about Thailand. One agent told me about the league there, and I start to see around internet, the stadiums, the league. Impressed me, even the level. So I decided to went there, and I start my journey out of Spain.
So what was it like living in Thailand? Like, was it tough without having the language? Was it a tough start there in terms of just getting to know people and settling in?
Yes, it was the toughest part, as you mentioned, is the language. Okay, I have not a perfect English, but I can communicate myself. But there, from I don't know, 23 players, I think 2, 3 can speak kind of a little bit of English, but don't dare to put a verb in the past because they cannot understand you. So instead of improving my English, I think it probably went worse there in Thailand, trying to communicate. But it was tough because you feel like kind of alone there. Sometimes you have teammates, but the language, not being able to communicate with them is tough. I try to improve or to learn Thai. In that year and a half I played there, I think at the end I could communicate in Thai. But it was a big change. Getting used to a professional level we have, luckily in Spain, how the football is in Atlético Madrid, Almería, and then that big change to Thailand, where it's professional football, but something that you see there are so different comparing with Spain. It was a big and difficult time for me. My first year abroad, I think it was in Thailand was my more difficult. Also with the food, I don't know. Before a game with spicy food, I have a funny story. In my debut there in Thailand, I have to ask for the substitution because the spicy food wasn't good on me. So after 70 minutes, I have to ask for the sub and go straight to the locker room. You can guess why. So yeah, it was tough. It's a lot of knowledge, a lot of improvement, especially as person. It was good, but at the same time tough to be so far of your family and feeling sometimes like kind of loneliness there because you are alone for 15 months. I couldn't spend even Christmas with my family, which really time that in Spain or of course here in Canada, everybody feel like going back home and stay with my parents, with my family, with my friends. But this is what some side that people don't know about being a professional sportman, about a professional footballer. But okay, at the end, it's knowledge, it's improvement, and tough, but another experience.
So I have a question for you from the chat here. So I'll bring it up here for you here quickly. Question for Jose. I am a Hong Konger, so I was very excited when I saw someone who had played in the HKPL had signed in the Canadian Premier League. I was wondering how you find the standard of football compares between Asia, Hong Kong in particular, and the Canadian Premier League. Are there different styles in play? I've been very impressed with how players from Asian leagues like Muro Fushi and those you have done in the league, and I hope more players from Asia are signed. So a big question, but what was your experience and what was the difference in play like between Hong Kong and Canada?
Well, Hong Kong, first of all, is an amazing country. It's my top 3 of countries where I live. It's an amazing place, and the football I think it's underestimated there because people heard Hong Kong. I don't think at all about football, but there were good footballers there, good foreigners players there, and the level of football was better than I expected. Not the stadiums and the supporters are not that good. I mean, they are not like in Thailand, Indonesia, where you play with 20,000 people, 30,000, 40,000. Still, in Hong Kong, is not like the main sport. Is not that famous, the league there. Kind of a little bit like Canada. Still have to improve. Not to improve. There are a lot of supporters, in my opinion, for only 3 years of life. But I think there is love for the sport. But when I see yesterday image, for example, IG Field, and I see the Bombers, I feel jealous. I say, wow, don't we have here this for Valour? Because I think there are a lot of people who love soccer. But even here in the city, I meet some people on, there is a team here in the league. I didn't know, in the Winnipeg. So there is still, I don't know, people don't know still like about CPL, and I hope the country, the TVs, the cities help more to improve the level of knowledge of the CPL. In terms of football, I think Hong Kong again have a pretty decent level, but in my opinion, CPL have better talent players still. Canadian football we see today with the women, but I can extrapolate to men football. I see a lot of talent players here, but unfortunately, the life of the professional football there is not in the point should be right now. I think we are progressing, but there's still a way to go. In that thing, I think it's kind of similar to Hong Kong, because Hong Kong players go to China, the good ones, to play. Same thing in Canada, the good ones go to USA. And I think in both countries we have make a step forward, because I saw in both countries a lot of talent players. About Morafusi, I need to say again, I think he's a really underestimated player here. He's one of my favorites for York. I think he read very good the game. He has controlled the game for a game of building up or a game of possession. And for me, so it was a big loss for York and for the league. I like him. I know he plays in Singapore League. I know him, and I was another proof that a player coming from that league can play here. When I play in Indonesia and in Thailand my first year, it was a stigma in Europe. Oh, this guy play already in Asia, cannot play in Europe. And I have to say, when I played in Austria, it was just because I was so stubborn that people tell me I cannot come back to Europe playing in Asia. That's you know why? Now I want to play in Europe, and I'm gonna show you how we can play in Europe. And in that time, it was not that common. But right now, you see, I don't know, so many players like Paulinho was playing in China, come back and play in Barcelona. But even this guy he played in China, now come back to Atlético Madrid, and he's playing amazing. Gianni Carrasco. He's even playing better than when he left to China. But there are so many cases that I can mention. So I don't like the fact that people who don't really know a market or a league, could be the Chinese league, could be the Hong Kong league, or who could be the CPL, say, I said CPL, yeah, but it's only 3 years of football. The level is bad. And I have to say always, no, you have to watch the league. It's better than you think. Yeah. Why you say that if you never follow the league? I hate it, like people just talk, because Canada is not a big potent like could be now USA or could be Mexico in terms of football. But they you saw in the goal, we deserve even to win against. I spoke like I'm a Canadian. Canada deserves to win against Mexico, and they are progressing, and every day they are getting better and better. And I hope for 2022 or for 2023, Canada is going to be a surprise. Same at Qatar. Nobody give a Qatar. What is this? A country of 2 million. And look, they were in the semifinals and playing playing amazing first half. They deserve more even against the USA, and they won last year against teams like South Korea, Japan, and Australia. So right now in a global world we are, in terms of football as well, I can tell you that every corner in the planet where I play, there are good players. I can say in Jordan, in Canada, and I see players, and you can see on Bustos and this, and so many players that can make can play in Europe for sure. You have the opportunity.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that. A couple of things, right? Like when you see the Bomber game sold out, you just have to dream of what it would be like to have a Valour game full. Like as a supporter, every time we're there, we go, man, like we need to get this place full. And I'll tell you what, Jose, I drag everyone I know to that game. And I'll tell you that
Please.
I haven't had one person that once I bring them says, I don't like this. Every single one of them goes, this is amazing. Why didn't I come to this sooner? And so I love that you pointed that out. And then the second part, you're right. There is a stigma around countries around this world, whether or not they're football nations or soccer nations, right? And it doesn't really come down to that. It comes down to the person, the athlete, and what they want to do with themselves in a lot of senses, right? So it's really, really great answer. Thank you so much for letting me ask you a question there from the chat. So you mentioned going back to Austria and kind of wanting to prove yourself. So you played in Austria, and then after that, you actually went to a team in Jordan. What was it like going and playing in the Middle East?
Well, in that times was difficult. They tell me if I was crazy because ISIS, Daesh, no, it was a big thing in that moment. Right after I signed the contract, I remember they captured a pilot, a Jordan pilot, and they killed him. So my parents, they told me, come back home, this is dangerous, because Jordan was in the border with Syria, with Iraq. But to be honest, since I landed there, I can say that Jordan is one of the most friendly countries where I play. The people is amazing and really safe country as well. When you see the map, you see the borders are Palestine and Iraq and Israel, and as I mentioned, but then you go there, I never felt any danger. So the beginning was kind of scared about that, but then I felt amazed with the people there. I feel that they are kind of similar character, like in Cyprus and Spain, like Mediterranean people. Arabs are kind of similar to us, like Spanish. And I love to play there. It helped me a lot to develop my game in a defensive way, because until that moment I always play as more offensive player, number 8, number 10, always offensive midfielder. But the fact of playing in Jordan, my coach really need a number 6, more defensive. And the fact also that the football in Jordan was really physical, and really you need to be really defensive there. In my team also we're fighting for relegation. So it helped me a lot on develop my defensive way. Probably if I don't play in Jordan, I would not be here, because here I signed as a defensive midfielder. Never in my life I play until I play in Jordan in that position. So you never know. It's something that I think I heard from Steve Jobs, and one speech I really love in the University of Stanford. He said you always have to join points, and something that happened in your past and maybe you don't even important, it makes sense after some years. Kind of the things that make sense when I say in Canada. It's okay. Now I sign for a defensive midfielder and I play in Jordan. It helped me to go through that position, and I know what it's about. So
here's a question, and it's going to feel like we're skipping forward a little bit, but we're going to skip forward a little bit. Canadian Premier League. When was the first time you heard about this league?
I heard about because of Adam Mitter. Was I met him in Indonesia when I was playing there. He went there. He went there for a one trial or something, and I met him, and then I started to follow him. So then I start to see sometimes he posts, especially in the IG field. I saw that locker room. I saw that facilities. I saw the stadiums full, not full, but 10,000 people. in the stand. So I said, wow, this is the first year of Canadian League. So I start to see also because Ramon Soria, from Edmonton, the captain of Edmonton, I met him also a long time ago. We both play abroad and we talk a lot. So I saw him as well. And then I start to pay more attention. I see more highlights and even games. And I say, oh, this is good. The level is pretty good. Better for being a first year. I never heard about Canadian League before. I heard about one guy here, Xavi, who after that he started to coach with Canadian national team. But when he played, was not professional. And when I saw him, even the stadium, they didn't look professional. And it was like 4 years ago, 4 years before that. But when I saw Adam Mitter things, I started to follow. It looks very professional. How the CPL and One Soccer make it amazing job from them. And I said, wow, this looks very nice. So I was the one who contacted him. I said, please, if you heard for something there, I will really go there because I was playing in Saudi Arabia. I got married, and my wife didn't like the idea of being in Saudi Arabia. It was tough. She couldn't even work there. She have to wear a hijab, a burqa for them. For her was not easy. So we said, okay, since we get married, we're gonna find a place. It's good for both, not only for me. Like, okay, that's the deal. So Canada sounds perfect. Everybody in Spain, you heard about Canada, and everybody told you good things. So suddenly, it was in April when I contacted Adam. But then I think it was in June. I was actually in my honeymoon, I think. And he told me, hey, I think Valour is looking for a midfielder. Unfortunately, because of an injury of Josip Golubar, after that I met him. I feel bad. He tore the ACL. And amazing boy. I became a really good friend with him, but I didn't know that happened. It was because of him, you know. But I knew they were looking for a midfielder. One agent, Japanese agent, I don't know, get in contact with, I guess, Damian, Rob, and the people in Valor, and they start to negotiate. And then I signed for Valor. It was, I don't know, after 1 week of 3 days of negotiation, it was easy to get an agreement, easy to get an agreement with Damian, especially with the most what I told with. A few days later, they told me, okay, you can take your time. I think I signed, and the next day he told me, okay, you want, you can travel. I was in Hong Kong in that moment with my wife, and I said, but if not, take your time. You got 1 week because I was in the middle of the season. I said, no, I wanna travel tomorrow. So I think because the difference of time, it was 13 hours, and I couldn't even barely sleep. After 6 hours, I was in a plane doing my getting all my stuff in the package, everything, and going to the plane. And the funny thing is that I traveled. It was like the longest trip of my life, like 28 hours. And when I arrived, I met Damian, and I thought it was gonna be easy. Said, okay, we're gonna make your presentation with Rob. I didn't know where I was. 13 hours difference, and they made me to train, like to practice.
Goodness.
I felt like, oh, and it was tough for me. And then I traveled to Edmonton, and in Edmonton, it was 6 p.m. or 5 p.m. I was feeling like asleep. I never felt jet lag before, and believe me, I travel a lot, and it was crazy that jet lag. And that was my first experience. I said, please, I cannot play this game. And I remember my first game on the bench. It was against Edmonton. I don't know if you remember, we have a delay because of storms, like 4 or 5 hours. 1 o'clock, and I was there fighting with myself to not fall asleep. I say, imagine if I fall asleep now here in the locker room with all my teammates. So it was a crazy. So I didn't make the debut. So then I made the debut after 4 days against Forge. We lost, but I played 45 minutes. That was my first game in the CPL.
And I remember that. I remember there was an excitement for us to see you get out there. We felt like we needed that piece, a little bit of experience and somebody to and I can remember you, and I don't know if you remember this, but I can remember you standing back in that kind of defensive midfield spot and barking orders, letting people know where they needed to be. Really, and you know what? We saw, as soon as you got on the field, we saw a better organization. We saw the I don't know if we call it leadership, but you really did bring something to that club, and we've loved you ever since you've arrived. Let's talk a little bit about this.
Thank you.
Valour fans love you, Jose. We all absolutely adore you. And I think part of that is the fact that when you're sharing, pictures and yourself on social media, you talk a lot about Manitoba, and you've sort of made it your home. Not only because you've had, your daughter was born in Winnipeg. She's a Winnipegger now. And my son was born similar time as your daughter. So we'd had those conversations, but is Winnipeg home for you now? Like, do you feel at home here in Winnipeg?
Yes, absolutely. The fact that the first year I stay here the whole winter, until we start the preseason the next year, it helped me to love the people here, hate the cold here as well, I have to say. I never experienced that cold in my life. It was really, really tough. I think it's the toughest part. But yeah, it's my third season here. This year, after the season, I'm gonna stay here again all the winter, and so it's just kind of my home. Yeah, I feel that, but it's only because of how the people make me feel. Sometimes I feel in depth, especially with the supporters, because I remember after only some games, I would start to play very regularly in the team, and just I don't know, after my 15, 16 games, the first year I start to hear my name, songs about me, and I really feel the welcoming and the love from the people. It's something that I never forget. I'm not gonna forget how the people here in the train, how the people in the stands, how the people in the city when they recognize me make me feel. It's something that you cannot describe, and you can not pay off enough to the people like you that contact me and tell me so many kind and good words that encourage me to play for you guys. So it's kind of big for me. Some of them are even like by chance now even my friends, even people in the trench. Like one of my best friends in Manitoba, in Winnipeg, is Paola and Roddy, people from the trench. I really take care of my family, especially in the really difficult times. We got like going to the bubble a couple of times. Things that people don't know about, same as Daryl, Coach Gail, Damian, that people, Patrick, Arnold, we have family, and we have to stay 5 weeks, 6 weeks away of our families. Especially for the players like me or Daryl, we don't have family here. We need to find another family, and I think in my case, we found that family. In this case, as I mentioned, like Paola, people in the train always give a hand to us to help us to when I'm playing abroad. So me and my family, my wife, really appreciate all, because it's not about football. Of course, football is important side, but we are also human beings, and the fact that I really love about the supporters in Winnipeg, or supporters for Valour, and make you different, is that here you are something more than only supporters that cheer the team if we are winning. Why I say that? Because the best moment for me, feeling that you are something important, something special, sorry. Because I play with 60,000 people in Indonesia, and don't get me wrong, the supporters there really love me. I got a connection with them amazing, and I will never forget them as well. And some countries I always feel, I don't know why, to be honest, like really easy to connect with the fans. I don't know my way of playing. I don't know why, but I feel always, maybe with the coaches or with some other people, but with the supporters, always a special connection. But is sometimes related or be connected with the results, especially if they got good. Okay, it's easier, and they tell you good things, but sometimes we got bad results. And again, I come back to 2019, and we lost 8-0, my biggest defeat, embarrassing defeat in my whole career. I said, come on, I have to stay now with 33 years old to get a defeat like this, to suffer in the field like this. But after this, even the fans never a bad word towards me, to the team. The next day you were there again, supporting in the stands. For me, that's the real supporter. Because support now that we are leading the table, when the things are good, it's easy. It's easy way to be a supporter of Valour FC. But for me, what is important is you were always there in the bad moments, and that is for me that it counts. When I score a goal, I know everybody's gonna be there. When we are in the after a win, or after I get an MVP, or the team is in the right of the table, in the top of the table, I know supporters are gonna be there and in social media and encouraging us. But you, again, Valour, the real Valour supporters, you stay there all the way. Some images come to my mind, like for example, when we were in the you are not allowed to come to the stadium because of the pandemic, and some of you were out of the stadium and with flags, and the players, maybe we don't tell you so or that often what we should, but I speak in the name of all of my teammates and the coaches, and that for us, you are big and you make us have that energy, and you are a bless for us. You give us so much energy that maybe you don't really feel like, okay, maybe the players don't feel it, but we really feel it. We do feel it, and we appreciate it a lot.
So it's a big shout out to Nikki and the Red River Rising crew. The Trench does incredible work, and as somebody who just got into my first supporters group, it was such a welcoming experience, and I think I really like hearing that from you, Jose, because that 8-0 loss was painful for us, but we wanted to be there for you and experience it with you, because we want to experience the good times with you too, right? I think that's part of being a supporter, is we're there for the tough times, we'll be there for you, and then we're going to be there again for when things go well. So about the bubble this year, I know that you didn't get a chance to play, but you were in the bubble. What was it like being in the bubble this year for the kickoff? Was it a good experience? Was it a frustrating experience? There was some conversation around, gym access, those sorts of things at the hotel. What can you talk about with that bubble experience?
Okay, for me it was a nightmare, I have to say. This year was tough for me. Because of course I wanted to be there, and of course I'm really, really happy, and at least we got really, really good results, amazing results. The atmosphere was amazing, with the boys, with the staff, with every single person who composed Valour. But at the same time, I think the people who play sports, or even know you will understand me why I say it's a nightmare, because when you are injured and you really want to play, but at the same time you are 24 hours with your teammates, but you cannot even do a one training with them. That's all why you are there. At the same time, you are far away from, not far away, you are in Winnipeg, but you cannot see your family. At least we are lucky the year was in Winnipeg, so sometimes they sneak and they come to the fence after the game, and even to the hotel, and I can see my wife and my baby. But you are there for 5 weeks. You kind of hope that the situation is gonna be better, the injury is gonna heal, but then you see it's not. It's not something minor. It's worse than we expected. It's worse than you think. You have to be more weeks and more weeks out, and the pain you check every single day. The first thing you do in the morning is I hope the pain is going away, or I feel less pain, and you don't feel it's going that fast because you have a major injury, even some a tough toe, but it was kind of worse injury that we expect, and I thought in the beginning. So I'm already 9 weeks. Again, the only good thing for me is that the team was with an excellent atmosphere, because we're winning, and because we have an amazing communication and relationship between along all the players. But at the same time, you want to be there, especially when the fans start to come. at some point I felt like, okay, I'm really happy for the team, but I want to feel part of that. And I would lie to you if I said I feel 100% part when I play. It's not like that. I wanna, even when I'm on the bench and I feel, but feeling staying in the stands, of course I support, but even I suffer more because I suffer much more, and you cannot, I don't know, you cannot help in any how. So it was kind of difficult for me. I have to say, and some personal fees. My wife alone there with the baby, so it was tough. It was tough, but the positive things. We went there, top on the table. The fans were happy. All the players were happy. The supporters every supporter went there, trench or not. Every supporter was happy. I saw the faces. We play really good games. So it was an amazing thing for the club and for the supporters, because I think from the staff after the 3 years they deserve that, and for a player like Fede, Rab, me, that we were in the more difficult moments, and we always said, and I always said, last year we have an amazing team. Even first year, I think we have a really good team. Sometimes football is like this. This year we got more results, and don't get me wrong, we have an amazing team this year, but I think that the other years we also deserve some credit. But this is how it's football. Now we got the result, we got the 3 points, 3 points, 3 points. We got that credit that we fully deserve this year. Is how, but with my point with saying this is sometimes the 3 points or the points makes the whole difference. And I don't think it's that gap difference between, for example, last year our team and this year. But it's all about points. It's all about the 3 points. What matters, you know. Same thing. Before the bubble, we're not amazing team, unbeatable. Like we cannot be defeated. And now we got 3 losses and we are not there. No, it doesn't work like that. I know for outside sports, maybe is what it is. Like everything is about victory, but like that poem, and I love that poem. I think Marcelo Bielsa said, like, I don't know the translation in English, but kind of like victory and defeat are both like impostor, you know, like I know the impostor, I don't know the name in English, like both cheaters. Like
Yeah.
you cannot trust on them, on both of them, you know. It's but nowadays the football and the professional sport is about this. It's about winnings. If you don't get the win, you are bad. If you get the win, you are the best. And I have to make that sorry to the, especially now that I'm coaching kids for 15 years. And I said, I don't want to just focus on the result. It's not focusing only on the result. It's more than that. You can agree with me, Jeremy, that some games maybe we can play a wonderful game and get a defeat, and sometimes maybe we play bad game and we get a win. So this is how football is. It's why we love and hate this sport at the same time.
Yeah, it's the love, you know, it's the love, and it's also part of that frustration. It's like, you know, some days, like you say, you know, Canada might play a great game against Mexico and still not get into that Gold Cup final, right? For example. I'm still sour. I'm still sad. I have a question here for you from the chat. Do you plan on staying here, I guess, in Canada long term? And do you think staying in Canada is good for your future overall? So interesting question.
Yeah, I think from Almería, I didn't play 4 years in a row in the same club. Right now is my third season in a row playing for Valour. I feel really motivated. I don't feel to retire right now. I feel I've still Jose Galan for some seasons more, and my plan is to play here. To play for Valour. I would say it's my first priority. Even when first year I got offer from Atlético Ottawa, I said my priority is always to play for Valour, and this still remains there. Coaches know, people in the club know. I think supporters already know. So as long as the club still want me, I'm motivated to stay here, and it means long term because at the same time I'm planning also to. I'm coaching already some kids, 14 years old. I like to coach. I think there is, especially here in Winnipeg, I don't know other cities in Canada, but here in Manitoba and in Winnipeg, I feel like there is still a way to do, especially with academies, with these kids of those ages, and I want to be part of that, helping with my knowledge and with my experience to those kids that they are starting now to love the game. I hope like winnings like today will of Canada help that desire for the kids to make it professional and to love soccer even more. So that's why one of the reasons I'm so happy. Other one is because I know the city Scott personally, so I'm happy for her as well and for all the Canadian people. And I really hope when I was watching today in TV, that game, I say, I really hope now the boys and the girls say, okay, I want to make this like they did today, make history. They need examples. For that, we need a stronger league. Like again, we're in the way. And me also want to be part of that. I think again we need to work a lot with academies, with those kids from 10 to 18 years old. That's why I want to be in long term here in Winnipeg to help with my knowledge to these kids and at the same time to the players who are making even this year. No, we have so many young players, 18, 19, 20. They never played professional before, so I think boys like Daryl, Andrew, Kevin, me, on the locker room. If you speak with one of them, I think we help a lot, not only in the field, like also in the locker room, the way we think we have to act, the ways you have to be a professional is not only on the field. Off the field, you have to also act like a professional. So that's why I think people, veteran people like me, these people, we have to stay in the game, and that mix make the teams stronger. So
Absolutely.
that's some of the reasons that I wanna be in Winnipeg.
And I think it's so, as a Canadian fan and also as a Valour supporter, it's so heartwarming that you see the opportunity here with our youth, with the generations that are coming up in this country, that there is, there's gaps. We could use better coaching. We could use clear path to pro. The Canadian Premier League is going to continue to grow. And I'm really excited that you see that opportunity and want to be part of it, Galan. Like Jose, that is fantastic. So before we wrap up here, I just wanted to point out, the fact that you mentioned that you stayed in Winnipeg for the winter the first year, I don't think you realize how enduring and how amazing that is for Winnipeggers, because we have hockey players who come in here and play, and they do everything they can to not be here in the summer. So it's amazing to see that you embraced it, you survived that first winter, and it was a really cold one. I mean, the last one was really cold too. It's only going to get worse, but it's a stubbornness that Winnipeggers have. We get up in the winter, we hate everything about it, but we get up, we complain about it, and we do everything we need to do anyway. There's a little bit of that stubborn hardiness in this town, and I think you fit in really, really well, Jose. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I'm really, really excited to see you back on the field. And so that'll be my last question. How is your toe doing? How's the injury? Are we expecting to see you back in the next couple of weeks, or how are you feeling?
Well, I cannot give you an answer because I don't really know. It's an injury that is bothering me a lot. I could say even I have the ACL, as I told you, but this probably is the most frustrating injury I got because sometimes I feel good, but then the next day, I don't know, I feel worse again. So we are getting treatment. We are getting everything as we can as possible, like to get it better. Of our timeline, I'm already in the 8 weeks since I got injury. They told me around 12 weeks, but I don't want to put times again because kind of stress me more. If I can get on the field before those 12 weeks, perfect. But if not, let's see, let's heal it, and still there are so many games to play. The only thing I guarantee you is that I will come back as strong as I was before, because I think this year, especially because I was playing in Spain, I was feeling really good on safe, but it came in a bad moment, the injury. But I just really looking forward to play in front of you. My goal was to play 16, the first opener game there, but again, I don't want to put any pressure because that will be my 10 week, I think, so it's still early. But let's see. Let's see when I can be back. I'm looking forward, but just from here, I will keep supporting my teams that they are doing great. I know we are losing now 3 games in a row, but I know what are the guys made of. We are capable of many things, so I know we're gonna come back again one more time.
Yeah, I know the squad is going to come back. We have the quality, we have the leadership, and we have a really great, talented team. I think really, really great, and we're really looking forward to seeing you back on the ground with us, Jose. And whenever that is, we'll be there to cheer for you. Your song will come up. You know, you'll hear us. So, big thank you for taking the time to join us today, Jose. Really do appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Have yourself a lovely day, and good luck to you soon.
Thank you, Jeremy, for your time. Nice to talk with you.
All the best. Thanks. So that was Jose Galan of Valour FC, a Canadian Premier League player who has played all over the world, starting with Atlético Madrid in terms of his first professional experience, and all over the world. We didn't get a chance to pick through all of the different pieces that he was part of, all the different clubs that he was part of, but what an experience to bring him on. Thank you so much to Valour and Jose for making time for me today. That has been episode 6. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate your time with me. You can find all the previous episodes on your favorite podcast app just by searching Scoot Talks Sports. You can also find us on YouTube if you're interested in watching the old video on demand. But hey, this episode is recorded live on Twitch Sports, and you can actually be part of the episode by following at twitch.tv/SCOOTR. That's Scooter. And joining us on Monday and Fridays at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. You can always connect with me on Discord, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. If you want to find out all the ways and all the links, just go to Twitter, search _SCOOTR, and you can find my profile and click on the link. Let's talk soon. Thanks again so much for listening.